Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming along today for our Strategic Marketing online part-time launch. Thank you for being here. My name is Aram Karakashan. I am the Director of Global Recruitment and Marketing here at Imperial College Business School. And I'm here to give you a quick overview before I hand over to Sarah and Andrew, our keynote speaker, and then we'll have a panel later on of some of our current students, student ambassadors, and then networking session. So, as you can see, this is the agenda. We'll be starting off now, and then we'll go into drinks upstairs where we were earlier later on. So just to give you a bit of flavour as Imperial College Business School, who we are, and you can see that we are a truly global school. If you just look at the numbers in terms of the MSc students that we have on campus, you can see that we have over 100 different countries represented as part of our cohort, and we're very proud of the fact that 53% of our students are female. You can see that we do bring in a very truly diverse global cohort from across the world. And I think people often ask, why Imperial for a place to study? And you can see that as a university itself, as a college, we are a global university. And that is backed up by our recent ranking as third in Europe in terms of global universities by the Times Higher Education. If you come on campus, you will see people from a wide range of different backgrounds, different industries, who have different interests, who come from different undergraduate and postgraduate disciplines. We also are a world-class university and have a reputation for excellence in teaching. And you see this in the way that our students interact between our MBA programs, our MSc programs, but actually how students who are at the business school interact with students from across the undergraduate space. So yes, you may be part of the business school if you're studying here today or wanting to study here today, but you might have relationships with or colleagues in our engineering, in our health science, in a range of different other areas across the school, and it's something that we promote for our students. We are a vibrant and diverse community at Imperial. We have over 17,000 students. Our global alumni network is over 200,000 students. So lots of numbers, lots of diversity, I keep repeating here. And as you can understand, we are based in the cultural heart of London. For those that know this area well, we have Hyde Park just up the road. You're on something called Exhibition Road, so we have the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum. It's something that we feel is a key place in the heart of London for you to be able to study at. And then why the business school itself? Well, our strategic marketing program ranks very strongly. We have a reputation for that program if that is something that you're interested in studying, and it's part of one of the reasons why we are today talking about our online program of the same nature. As I mentioned, we have cross-disciplinary teaching and thinking in the way that our students come together. We want you to be in an environment where if you have 0 years of experience, 5, 10, 15 years of experience, you can be interacting and engaging with others from across industries who have different interests, who see and understand issues in a different way. It's how you engage, it's how you learn, it's how you develop. So it's very important for us that we put you in that type of environment, whether it is online or whether it is in a face-to-face situation. We have very strong corporate connections. We leverage the fact that we are in a busy corporate city such as London. For example, right now there is a PwC event happening upstairs for our students. But we are regularly bringing on companies across from London, across industries, to recruit our students, to engage, to be speakers. We want you to be engaging with the range of corporate recruiters that we have. And as I've mentioned again, we have a very diverse community that you become a part of. Some key numbers for the school, that alumni network, that alumni college network that you would become a part of, but equally the fact that we span over 150 countries in our reach in terms of where we recruit students from, but equally where alumni go out afterwards. So that is a very brief overview of Imperial, and I hope that most of you maybe know some of these statistics already, know us as a school already, or here to find out for the first time. I'm going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to talk more about our online program.
Okay, welcome to Imperial College Business School. It's great to see you all here this evening. It should be a really good evening. I'm very excited to hear our keynote speaker, as I'm sure all of you are as well. So I'm not going to keep you for too long. My brief was really just to give you just a little bit of a flavour of our programs here in the business school, to give you an idea of why we might be different maybe to other marketing programs you may have seen. So my name is Sarah Wilsey. I'm the Program Director for the Management Suite of Programs, and within my portfolio is Strategic Marketing, the face-to-face program, and also this new online program. So here are our two programs. The face-to-face program's actually been running for 9 years now, so it's very well established, and we generally have 190 to 200 students on that program every year. And because that program is so popular and so successful, and because the business school is one of the leading business schools for online learning, and we have a very successful global online MBA program and also a successful online MSc in business analytics, it seemed like a natural progression for us to develop an online strategic marketing program as well. So the idea behind the online program is that the learning outcomes of that program are very similar to our face-to-face program. We have a little bit more flexibility in it, and we would expect a slightly more experienced cohort, because generally our online programs are attractive to part-time students. It is a part-time program, and most of our students will be working at the same time. So you'll see that some of the electives that we're offering reflect that. But the learning outcomes of the overall program are very similar to our face-to-face program. So there's a lot of information on this slide, and it's basically there to summarize what marketing at Imperial College Business School really means. And I'm not going to go through everything on the slide, but just to pick out a couple of key words. So the first word that's really important is innovation. So the business school is part of Imperial College. Imperial College, as most of you are aware, is a STEM institution, and it's really renowned for innovation, technology, and that sort of DNA, as well as being in the rest of the college, really infiltrates also to the business school. So in fact, in all our programs, we really embrace innovation, and that's both in the way that we deliver teaching and also in the content of the programs as well. The second word that's really key for this particular program is strategy. So this is a strategic marketing program. Okay, so while some marketing programs maybe will teach you more around the creative side, you know, how to do social media campaigns and that side of things, we really put a lot of emphasis on the strategy in this program. And the idea is that you're not just going to be marketing managers or marketeers in the future, but you're actually going to be marketing leaders in the future. So we expect that the skills that we teach you on this program will actually equip you to have a place in the boardroom later on in your careers, and that you will be able to speak the same language as your chief financial officer, or be able to relate to the CEO, and actually when you're talking about your marketing strategies, that you will be able to speak the same language. Okay, so you will see if you look at the content of the program, strategy is very, very strongly embedded everywhere, and we do have modules on finance, we do have modules on strategy. Okay, so we would like to think that this is really what makes us different to a lot of other marketing programs on the market. And the third word, which I think really describes our programs, is technology. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you are working in the marketing industry at the moment, or are interested in careers in the marketing industry. This industry is so fast moving, and technology has probably had a larger impact on this industry than any other industry. Over the last 10 years, it has completely changed. So we really believe that having technology and analytics embedded in our programs is so important for students who want to go out and really succeed in their marketing careers in the future. And again, if you look at the program content, you will see technology, analytics is very heavily embedded in the program for that reason, digital marketing. Okay, so the program aims and objectives for both our strategic marketing programs is really to understand advanced marketing practices in the context of modern businesses. So this again goes back to the technology. We want to prepare students for being able to really succeed in the workplace in the future. To understand the critical role of technology in marketing as a challenge and an opportunity. And to be able to apply marketing management to the future. So you can see it's all about thinking ahead. So it's not just for your first job we're worrying about, we're also thinking about where you're going to be 5 years, 10 years down the line. Okay, so roughly speaking, the online program has this format. So you have some online modules that you will do in the summer before you arrive, or you start your program. We bring you in for an on-campus induction, and you'll actually do some activities with the face-to-face program as well, which will be fun, so you actually get to meet those students. And then you will start your core modules. So you'll have 6 core modules, which will run for the first autumn term and the spring term, and you'll have some online sort of timed assessments to assess those modules. And then in the summer, you get to choose your first lot of electives. So we're now. And you will have a choice of roughly 3 out of 6 electives, at least in the first year. After those electives, after the summer, you then come back to start your core modules. You'll finish your core modules in the autumn term. You have another choice of 3 electives, which we'll do in the spring term. We then bring you back on campus for a session just after Easter to get you all together, to meet again, and we'll have some careers treks, and we'll also have some academic sessions to help prepare you for your project modules before we start that. And then you'll complete the program by doing some sort of project module, and that will be either a work-based project where you can either do a project within your company, or you can do some consulting for another company, or for those of you that are really interested in research, then you can actually do an individual research report as well. Okay, so these are all the modules. All this information is up on our website, so I'm not going to go through it in detail. I would also recommend that anyone who's interested in doing the program attend either a webinar or come back for an on-campus session specifically about the programs. Obviously, I'll be around for the networking afterwards as well, so if you have questions about the program, please come and find me during the networking session. But otherwise, everything else is on our website. And also, please do keep in contact with our admissions team if you have any queries at all. Okay. All right, so this was just one slide we put in about online delivery. So as I said, the business school has 2 very successful online programs. Our online programs are delivered by a bespoke virtual learning environment, which we call the Hub. And on the Hub, the way that you'll learn through videos and animations, readings and case studies, polls, word clouds, geolocations, image video sharing, discussions, quizzes, live sessions, and tutorials. So the way that we deliver the programs is very interactive. It's not just you read a whole load of content and then you complete some reports. So we do expect you to engage with that content. We monitor how you work through that content, and we vary the content a lot to make it engaging. And then you'll have a variety, depending on the module, you'll also have several live sessions where you can interact both with the tutors and also with your class. Okay. And as we said, there are 2 on-campus sessions for the program. Okay, so I think that's my time up. I think I'm more or less up to time. I'll hand it back to you. Yeah.
So I have the pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker, Andrew Giordano. He's the VP of Revenue Operations at DoubleVerify, where he's been there since 2011. He's also the advisor to a range of different companies in the digital and media tech world. And he is here to provide our insights into the digital marketing world today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. There we go. Perfect. So, topic today, right? It's up here on the screen in front of you. Today's digital media climate and how the role of the marketer is changing. This has never been more true, right? There's sort of 5 key areas that I'll talk about with you today. The first of which is a little about DoubleVerify, right? Who is the company that I work for? What's the role we play within the industry? We'll then go into a little bit around what we're calling media quality, which is something that really all marketers are very keen on learning about right now. Move into why verification. So beyond what media quality is, what service DoubleVerify provides and what we do for marketers. And then tied to that is going to be, what are the skill sets as marketing professionals all of you need to know to be incredibly successful in your careers in this day and age. Finally, I'll end on a note on challenging the status quo with some recommendations and best practices for you. Sounds good? Perfect. I hate this slide. Obviously, this is me. I'm the VP of Global Revenue Operations for DoubleVerify. This is also something that's really interesting that you may start to see within the marketing field, especially within later stage startup companies who operate in this space. As companies continue to grow and open up new offices in new countries and new markets, hire more people into new teams, a lot of companies are focused on ensuring that there's consistency and precision when it comes to rolling out processes and making sure that there's sort of global standards across the company. That's basically what my role is at DV. I work on the liaison between the commercial team at my company and every other department within our organization to make sure that essentially the cogs keep running. Cool. A little bit about, again, who we work with, the status of DoubleVerify. To sum up what we do into just one sentence, it's up here on the screen. We authenticate the quality and effectiveness of digital media for the world's largest brands, their advertising agencies that work with them, but also the largest media technology companies in the industry. So what I'm talking about here is working with consumer brands, think Colgate and Mondelez, working with their global ad agencies, think WPP agencies or Publicis media agencies. But also we've had to work and partner with large social media companies and technology providers in the space. Google and their DSP, which I'll go into what that is in a little bit, Facebook, Amazon, these are all companies that we've had to partner with. And then finally, a little bit around DV, right, when it comes to our global scale and reach. It's one thing as a startup organization, when you're first starting, focusing on one or two markets is fantastic. It helps you get a foot in the door. It helps you really grow your business at a local level. But eventually, if you want a seat at the CMO of Colgate or at Mondelez, and they're saying, I need you to roll out your service across 70 or 80 markets all over the world, they're going to expect you to have a local presence. And when I first started with DV, we were just a tiny percentage of what we were today. Where we're at now is 9,000 global clients that work with us all over the world. We have over 550 employees, and we're actively recruiting for more. When we run campaigns in over 70 countries for the largest brands we work with, and also we support our services in over 40 different languages. To support these global businesses, we've also had to hire up, you can imagine. When I first started, we had offices in Tel Aviv, New York, and London. That was it. London was an office of one. Where are we at today? You can see here all of the dots on the page. Over 20 offices around the world and growing. We're opening up Tokyo this year. We're opening up Mumbai in India. This is a global service that meets a global need for today's digital marketer. So finally, let's get to the meat of this, right? Let's get to the good stuff. So clarity and confidence. What is this? Why is this important, right? So do any of you use Ocado by a share of hands, like the food delivery service, right? A bunch of you guys do, right? The benefit of Ocado is that it automates your grocery shopping. You go online, you pick out everything you want, and they just hand deliver it to you. But let's think about what's lost in that transaction, right? You lose the ability to go to the market, find the orange that you want, the orange that looks perfect, and pick that for yourself. You're trusting someone else to deliver that to you. The same thing has happened to digital marketing. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, as a large brand, you would have your ad agency meet with a ton of different sales representatives for big global publishers like Financial Times, The Economist, right? You'd meet with them, you'd sit down, you'd align on a marketing brief, you'd sign a contract, and you knew exactly where your ads were going to run. Now, fast forward 10, 15 years later to where we are today. And there's a ton of new technologies that have allowed for automation in this space. And while the automation is incredible in that it's allowed people to iterate with much greater speed than they ever could in the past, reach a wider audience, use data to make changes on the fly, the challenge is it's kind of like ordering from Ocado. You don't know what you're actually buying, right? You don't know what's being delivered to you via these platforms. So let's talk a little around the birth of verification. Now that we know, we've sort of set the stage for what the situation in the industry is, how did DoubleVerify come around? So our very first CEO, who's now one of the members of our board, was based in Israel at the time, working in his office in Tel Aviv, and he saw an ad. Any of you know this brand? It's a US retailer. It's called Target, right? Can any of you tell me what's wrong with this? CEO in Tel Aviv, seeing an ad for Target. All right?
It's not localized.
Bingo. It's not localized. Target only operates in the United States. Sure, he was reading an ad on the New York Times. New York Times is also a US publication. Fantastic. But there's no Target within thousands of miles of Tel Aviv. You're not going to click on that ad, fill up your shopping cart, and have an order delivered to you in Israel. It's not possible. It was wasted media spend. And he got to thinking, he said, wait a minute, if this is happening here in Israel, and we're only just looking at this one little instance of a geolocation issue, what other instances of, we call it digital non-compliance, right? Or basically low quality media that's being purchased, but you think you're buying the right stuff. What's going on in the industry? So he got together with a friend of his, and what they uncovered is that there were a slew of issues with this automated buying technology that was going on in the industry, where people thought they were buying really high quality, amazing inventory, but were ending up buying stuff that they didn't intend on buying. And this breaks out into 4 key areas for our technology today. The first of which is fraud. I'm not going to go too much into this with you guys. Happy to talk about it over networking later. But you can imagine for a fraudster, think about all the different types of fraud, right? There's credit card fraud. Think about types of organized crime where there's weapons trade, drug trade, any place where there is a loss of transparency and a high financial incentive, some sort of criminal activity is going to find their way in there. Fraudsters have absolutely infiltrated digital marketing. It is actually the second largest form of organized crime in the world, second only to the drug trade, is digital advertising fraud. So how do we make sure that these large brands who are investing tens of millions of pounds every year in digital ads aren't inadvertently buying non-human traffic, like literally just an automated bot from a device, or buying a fraudulent website where the website is hiding ads maybe behind the layer of the screen? The second area is viewability. So ad viewability didn't even exist until 9 years ago. We can now, through technology, measure whether the ad itself that you're seeing on your mobile device or on your computer or on your connected TV device, whether that is actually shown within the corners of the browser window, within your screen itself. And the industry has set a definition, which might shock a bunch of you guys. For a display ad, think about that as the image, like the rectangle ad you see on any of the websites you go to. If half of that ad is in view for 1 second or longer, that meets the industry standard of what's considered a viewable ad. For video ads, they're much more strict. It's 2 seconds, right? So you can imagine as a marketer, it was eye-opening to say, I assumed all of my ads actually were meeting that standard at a baseline. What we're finding is that is absolutely not the case. The third area revolves around what we call brand safety, right? And of course, brand safety, you can think of all the nasty stuff, right? You can think of porn, you can think of extreme violence, terrorist content, but there's also nuance to it, right? One of the best examples I tell is one of our global clients, General Mills, right? General Mills, they own Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Do you think it's appropriate for a Haagen-Dazs ad to be in an article about how to lose weight? Right? That's a brand safety issue. And what used to be a one-to-one issue where a consumer, if they saw that ad, would call up their local grocery store and say, how dare you place an ad for Haagen-Dazs ice cream in my fitness magazine, right? What you're seeing now is somebody gets really upset, goes onto Twitter, and now you have a one-to-many relationship where you actually have a PR situation on your hands arising from one bad ad that was placed digitally. And then finally, the NGO piece, which I already kind of went through. That's pretty easy, right? So marketers often look at these individual metrics of quality in silos. They look at them as individual areas, right? But what we realized is there's a ton of overlap. So let's actually talk about what that looks like. These are some real metrics that we're seeing. Around 50% of ads never have the opportunity of being viewable, right? Being seen according to that minimum threshold. Around 1/3 of ads can be eroded by non-human traffic, which basically is fraud, right? Around 1/3 is fraud. And then up to around 10% on any given campaign have brand safety issues. Of course, these numbers fluctuate from campaign to campaign. But let's do the math here. 10 plus 50 plus 33. 93%. If 93% of all digital ads that were purchased by these major global brands were poor quality, none of us would be here. Right? I would be out of a job. The whole industry would be out of a job. What we see is that there's a ton of duplication, right? There could be an ad that was served on a brand unsafe website that was also compromised because there was a bot on that website. There was fraudulent activity. Or maybe it was a viewable ad, but it was served out of geo, right? So what DV came up with, and again, this is something to keep in mind as marketing professionals, is always be iterating, right? Always be thinking of new ways of doing things. Back in 2014, we scrapped our whole platform and rebuilt it from the ground up so we could report on this thing called an authentic impression, which is a deduplicated metric of media quality that now you can bring to a CMO, and a CMO can understand what is the net number of high quality impressions that my budget delivered for me. So instead of why verification, think a little bit of why now. Like, why is this still relevant? It's been 10 years, more than 10 years since DV started. We started in 2008. Why is this still relevant today? Shouldn't we have solved all these problems by now? And the reality is 31% of ads back in the year 2010 were non-compliant, right? Were low quality. What we're at today is 40%. It's not that things have gotten worse. It's just that the demands of today's marketer have changed. They rapidly change. Every 1 to 2 years, there's new ways to measure quality. And just to give you guys some examples to look at here, in 2010, these were the top trends that marketers and their ad agencies were coming to us to solve for them. Malware and spam websites, pornography and nudity, out of geo ads, and something that was called below the fold. All right, below the fold is a term that's not even really used anymore. It originated from newspaper buying when your ad would actually be served below the fold of the newspaper. In digital ads, it was when your ad served below when the page actually fully loaded, so you had to scroll down to get to the ad. Right, we've evolved, technology's evolved. The trends that we're looking at today, it's not that malware and spam don't matter, it's that malware and spam have actually evolved into a bigger issue, which is known as ad fraud. Pornography and nudity have shifted based on today's news climate, right? Hate speech and inflammatory politics is way more important to brands to stay away from today. Out of geo ads, interesting, we still need to focus on it, but language targeting is also important to me. And below the fold ads have given rise to ad viewability measurement. So one of the things that, again, we recommend you do, and that we do at DV as well, is we always check in with the customers. Right? We're talking here, a lot of the conversations within our industry happen in a silo. It's marketers talking to marketers. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is communicate with real people who are out there who might purchase our products. So we needed to figure out, are we just making this a problem, or does this stuff actually matter to them? And in some independent research we conducted with a company called Harris, we surveyed over 2,000 consumers, and asked them a variety of questions around today's climate to get their thoughts and feelings on this stuff. The first thing you'll see here is good news for all of us. 61% of consumers out there feel that digital marketing, digital advertising is still good, regardless of all of the nasty stuff you hear around privacy and cookies and brand safety and fake news. Most of them still feel that digital advertising has a positive impact on their lives and is valuable to them, right? Now let's get to some of the negative stuff that we've heard from them. 67% of customers, 67%, 2/3, say that if they saw a brand's ad next to false content, objectionable content, etc., they would no longer be brand loyal. That's serious. That's 2 out of 3 of your target customers, right? And they're aligning with your brand because your brand has values and their values align with the brand's values. Let's take this a step further. 87% feel that if they were to witness this event happening, it is the brand's fault. Now, many of us in this room know how complex the digital ecosystem is. There's so many intermediaries, but a random person who has nothing to do with our industry has no idea that there's an advertising agency and an automated media buying platform called a DSP that's being used, right? All of this is foreign to them. All they know is that that's a brand that I used to support and they're advertising next to content I disagree with. And then finally, 78% of consumers are now more aware of how companies collect their data, but they're sharing their data less often. So as a marketer, we need to start thinking about the future, right? What we used to be able to do is rely on data that users were freely sharing with us, often unknowingly. But we're in a post-GDPR world. We're in a world in which most of the major web browsers are saying they're going to eliminate cookie tracking, third-party cookie tracking from happening, right? How do we as marketers start planning today for the future that's going to come out in the next few years? And we spoke to some brands, and all of these issues around the consumers are directly tied to what brands are saying and what they're looking for in their own organizations, right? You take a look here on the left around why brands are worried, right? 47% of brand professionals agree that brand safety incidents are going to be a huge deal for them. It's something that's very important for them and they should worry about it. And 70% of them consider it a very serious problem. More importantly, not only is this a theoretical issue, if you look on the right there, it's with good reason. 75% of brands have said that there's been a brand safety incident for them as an advertiser over the past 12 months. And 25% of them have actually said that the news picked it up and they got called out publicly for this. This is the new reality of digital marketing. It's no longer about figuring out where to place your ads. It's how do we blend our marketing experience and our marketing requirements with the needs of our PR function of our organization. And there's a little bit of a trend around shaming brands. And I've narrowed this down into 3 main areas based on the feedback that we get from the largest advertisers we work with today. The first of which is inappropriate conduct of brand representatives, right? So let's take a look at what this could look like. Do any of you know the Fire Festival, right? Weren't there a ton of celebrities and influencers who were all blasting out Instagram sponsored posts saying, hey guys, come to the Fire Festival, book your tickets, this thing's awesome. Then it gets identified as a fraud scheme, right? At the same time all of this was going down, Kendall Jenner, who was posting about this, also happened to be a brand spokesperson for Pepsi, right? How does Pepsi deal with this scenario? There's tons of articles going out in the press bad-mouthing Kendall Jenner. The last thing they need is for their ad with Kendall's face to show up on that article, right? Area number 2, advertising and inappropriate content. I'm a little bit worried about what's going to pop up after I press the next button. Let's hope it's relatively brand safe. All right, well done, marketing team. Why is YouTube broadcasting climate misinformation to millions? Right? This is, I don't know if you've seen the press. This has really just started hitting the press about 2 to 3 weeks ago, where there's tons of YouTubers out there who are producing fake information around climate change. And all of these videos are ad supported. What that means is the brand who's running their ad on that content is inadvertently monetizing that content. They're giving the people who are producing these videos money to make more of them, right? As a brand, how do I make sure that I'm not running my ads on this? And then finally, lack of brand values. I'm sure all of you remember the whole VW emissions scandal, right? Again, VW, for better or for worse, they still need to sell vehicles, right? At the end of the day, as a company, they need to keep the lights on. So in the midst of dealing with this entire scandal, they need to continue to run ads. They need to continue to try to drive people into their showrooms to go on test drives and purchase vehicles. How do I do that while also ensuring that I'm not wasting my money by buying an ad on an article like this, where I'm getting publicly called out? No one's going to click on that ad and then go for a test drive while reading this. It just feels gross, right? 10 years ago, none of these problems existed. So your new job as a marketing representative in today's world, number 1, ensure you're not spending your budget in places where a brand representative, right, somebody that's representing your company, is getting publicly shamed, right? Number 2 is ensure you're not spending your budget in places where there's inappropriate content, and that's got to be specific to your brand. There are maybe a very small number of universal inappropriate content ideas or issues, but there are brands who are trying to target adults, right? It's okay to run on adult content if you're an adult targeted ad, right? There are brands who are, children only. They need really strict brand safety concerns. One of the things you can do as a marketer is identify what your brand values are, what content aligns with your brand values, and then make sure there's a playbook in place so that no one is buying ads and content that doesn't align with what those values are. And then finally, ensure you're not spending media budget in places where your own brand is being shamed so that you're not perpetuating a PR scandal or a PR incident. So key attributes for today's marketer, right? This is actually something that we pass around here at DoubleVerify, but it's something that just sort of exemplifies what people are looking for today. These are our values, right? And you'll see there's sort of 2 trends these break out into. The first of which I call innovation. So that's trailblazing, courageous, passionate, leave footprints, invent a way, right? We are looking for people who will look us dead in the eyes as senior executives within our company and tell us there's a better way of doing what you're doing today. Innovate. The second thing that we look for, and it's becoming more and more important in today's world, is integrity. Integrity is not something you can teach somebody. It's innate and it's inherent. And the biggest thing I would ask is to not lose sight of your own integrity and your brand's integrity in whatever decisions you end up making as marketers in your professional lives. And just to illustrate how important this is, I'm not going to read these out loud, but there's a couple of quotes up here from both a global telecommunications company and also from the CEO of a global advertising agency, a creative media agency, right? And if you actually read both of these quotes, you'll see that there's alignment there. They're looking for young, fresh people who are aware of what today's digital landscape looks like so they can learn from these young professionals, but also they're making sure that they want people who have integrity and who will align themselves to their brand. And sort of this stays true even in DoubleVerify's roadmap, right? Again, I'm not going to go through all of these. We'd all fall asleep. But to start all the way on the left, right, DV was created based on that one ad for Target being served in Israel. If we had created a product that was just about preventing Target ads from running in Israel, that would have had no legs, right? Even if we had created a product that was just this geo-targeting product, still not enough. We had to continue to push forward and continue to innovate. We added new layers to our technology. We added brand safety. We added fraud, right? We ended up integrating with the social media platforms, the big automated buying platforms in the industry. We've extended across all of this, and it's always been in the face of do what's right and also innovate, step forward. And you'll see all the way in the 2020 bucket, there's one thing there that I'll talk to you guys about just to give you a sense of what's on the horizon as marketers. We call it authentic performance. So one of the things many of you might be familiar with is that there's different metrics available today for measuring digital advertising's performance, digital media performance. The first bucket here is the stuff that's really quick and easy to see, right? It's stuff that you can look at today and make optimizations off of. Things like click-through rate, how often are people clicking on the ads, attribution, right? A lot of the platforms that you run ads through today, ad servers, they have attribution tools built into them. They're really easy to follow. Or viewability. A lot of brands even are saying, hey, that definition of a viewable ad, I want to use that as a key performance indicator, a KPI for me, right? They're all really quick and easy to iterate off of and make optimizations off of, but there are some challenges, right? A lot of them are proxies for performance. Unless you're an e-commerce brand, even attribution won't help you. If you're an auto brand, maybe it'll tell you how many people are requesting a test drive, but that's about it. Also, when you do multi-market media buys across many different platforms, if you're Colgate and you're working in 80 countries, right? Being able to tie all of these metrics together and make sense of them is basically, it's not feasible, right? Technology is not accepted in different markets in the world. There's limitations from a technology standpoint. You can't do it. And then finally, privacy regulations. I spoke about GDPR, right? I spoke about the death of the cookie, right? A lot of these things up here, especially attribution, the way that people do attribution today is generally tied to cookies. If that goes away, you have a 2-year roadmap at best to keep on using this as an optimization metric. Right? We take one step beyond and we take a look at stuff that's a little bit more long-term. You have your multi-touch attribution, these big, giant global companies that you can work with to help you understand how many different digital touch points there were before someone ended up buying my product, right? Large studies that cost a lot of money to produce and take a lot of time. Surveys, right? Brand lift studies, brand awareness studies. You can work with, again, major global companies to pull these studies for you, but the results are slow, right? And then finally, media mix modeling, possibly the slowest. 6 months after your campaign's over, you now have insights to tell you where you should have put your money, right? Again, it's valuable. We're not saying don't do these things, but we're saying it's really hard to optimize quickly off of these to drive performance, right? So what DV came out with, and I think you're going to start to see more of this in the industry, is this new metric. We're calling it authentic performance. And basically what it does is it's layering on every element of digital quality, which, by the way, all of the other things I just spoke about, from click-through rate all the way through to multi-touch attribution and media mix modeling, none of them take into account quality, right? So this takes into account the quality of the ad first, and then overlays a couple of metrics that we've found through some research we've done with a couple of brands are proxies for performance. We call them exposure, so the size of the ad unit relative to the size of the screen, the duration of time in view of that ad, tied to engagement. So mouse movement on page while your video ad was playing, changing the volume of the video, clicking on an ad, hovering over an ad, a lot of different metrics. And when you overlay these on top of each other, there's a very strong correlation between this and performance of your digital campaign actually tied to either sales or unaided brand lift, unaided brand awareness. So 5 key takeaways and some final thoughts for all of you, right? The first of which, the biggest ideas can come from the smallest event. Our first CEO seeing that one ad on his computer in Israel gave the birth of a company that now has 550 employees and a global footprint, right? Don't ever think that an idea of yours is too small to run with. There might be legs to whatever you have. Just talk about it, right? Embrace it. Work with others to flush it out. If you think it's a good idea, don't just cast it aside. The second, never sacrifice quality for vanity metrics. I cannot stress the importance of this enough. Specifically within digital marketing, there has been so much of an emphasis placed on what is sort of the next quick trick that I can implement in my campaign to say that things are performing. Don't lose sight of the original quality of it. Trust your customers. They will always tell you what to do. They'll always know what's right. Make sure that there's some sort of real-time feedback learning loop that you're putting into place so that you can understand the customers you're trying to reach, how they feel. Always be learning, right? Enroll in courses, keep yourselves current. Not only that, but the youngest people within your organizations often have the most to teach us, right? Make sure you're continuing to meet with them, meet with other leaders in the space. If you're actually a marketer, you'll get inundated with people who want to meet with you to try to sell you things. Take them up on meetings. Like, even if you don't buy it, it's okay to say no. Learn about what's out there because you never know when that might come in handy when you're in the boardroom with your CEO. And then finally, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. What brands are looking for more today now than ever is for disruptors. However, they're equally terrified of disruption. So keep that in mind, but be bold, right? Make recommendations. Force them to take your opinion into consideration. Use data to back you up. Use analytics to back you up. But I guarantee if you follow all 5 of these, you'll be incredibly successful marketing professionals. Thank you for your time. It was great to meet all of you. Sure. Yeah, do we have any questions?
Hi, my question is, your kind of business, do you work with media owners at all to kind of solve these issues with like viewability and things like that? Or
Very good
work
question.
against them?
Very good question. So the question, just to repeat it for everybody, is do we work with media owners as well? Initially, our business was all about helping the advertisers. We then moved into solutions for platforms. So we actually work with some of the world's biggest sort of intermediaries and platforms to help them scrub their inventory for fraud and other quality elements. One of the other things I didn't mention, but key to success for a lot of companies is to make some strategic acquisitions. And about 2 months ago, we acquired a company called Adjuster, based out of San Diego in California. And Adjuster has a lot of tools that are specifically meant for publishers, specifically meant for media owners. So we're building out a full suite that we're going to be rolling out for publishers to help them improve their yield. Good question. Yeah?
I was wondering how the death of the cookie affects marketers and what the industry is going to look like without that or moving away from that.
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, to repeat it, what does the death of the cookie mean for marketers? It means reworking things from the ground up. And I could play the role of digital prophet for all of you and look into my looking glass and tell you what 3 years from now will hold. I don't know, to be honest. I can tell you what we're hearing in the industry. A lot of companies are building solutions which are no longer going to be reliant on cookies. So they're looking at things like digital fingerprinting, right? Getting an understanding of who a user is based on specific behavioral attributes that don't rely on a cookie and assigning an ID to who that user is. There's also going to be a renaissance, and we're really seeing this in contextual targeting. Back in the day, 10 years ago, the way you'd reach your audience is you'd find publishers who had interests on their websites that aligned with your target customer, and you'd buy those publishers. We're actually seeing a resurgence in this today. It's another service we offer, actually, is contextual targeting, but we think it's going to get smarter. Given the way technology works today, you can target much more granularly. It's no longer just sports equipment. You can actually build a segment, which is I want to find specific articles. If I'm Adidas, I want to find specific articles that are speaking about Nike and get my ad on those articles. You can do things like that today, and we think that that's what the future holds in store.
Is it working? No? Yeah, okay. Thank you for your insights. You spoke about this formula where you said quality of the ad and then also performance is kind of the golden formula. How do you measure the quality of your ad? Because you say that you're one of the few ones who do it. How do you do it? What do you look at?
Yeah, so again, the question is how do we measure the quality of the ad? The best thing about the way that our company's technology works is it's all done through a brief. When people start working with us, there's what's called a blueprint that people fill out. And in that, they select dozens of different levers, categories that they deem to be not brand appropriate for them. Their geo requirements, where are they running their ads and how do they want to make sure they're not running in markets where their product's not available. Language targeting, app targeting, user ratings, star ratings, there's all these different elements. We let the brand tell us and the agency tell us what quality means for them, and then we report against that and block against that to deliver quality. Yeah?
So just a follow-up question on that then. Do you score based on what the activity is as well? So if it's a click on a video or etc., or is there a scoring or?
Good question, right? So going back to, there's the quality metric, which is much more around the delivery of the ad itself, right? Was it delivered in an environment that was quality, regardless of whether it captured the attention of a user? And did it meet that minimum threshold of what a viewable ad should be? This new product, this authentic performance product, does factor in things like clicks, hovering, engagement with the ad itself, engagement with the page. And that's what we're seeing as sort of the next iteration of this. It's beyond just making sure that you're buying quality. It's now that you're buying quality, that delivered engagement, and how do we find those tiny little nuggets of insights that we can optimize towards to drive more engagement, which inevitably will drive more sales for us as a company. Great. Perfect. Thank you.
So I think we're going to do the panel. Do you want to do the panel?
Sure.
Yeah. So we're just going to set up for our alumni panel. Andrew's going to join the panel as well. So I can ask the 4 alumni that are here today who are mic'd up. We've got 3, 4. Yeah. Just join. There should be a seat for you as well. I think we're going to give you oh, you've got one.
I might.
Come join. I'm going to be at the lectern.
Yep.
So we'll go from there. One more. So we're going to have about 20 minutes, 25 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll go upstairs, back up to the atrium for networking, drinks and reception, and where we can all converse and talk about some of the subjects that Andrew has been talking about, but hopefully what our alumni will talk about today. So maybe let's start with everyone introducing themselves, their company, their role, maybe what function they're working on at the moment, and then we'll dive into some of the questions. If you want to start on this end.
Yeah, happy to start. So my name is Riccardo. I studied strategic marketing in 2016-17, and I now work at Amazon as a brand specialist in health and personal care.
Hi, so I'm Lambros, so graduated back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So I currently work with KPMG as a marketing campaign manager.
Hi, I'm Julia. I graduated in 2018, so not that long ago. I work at Digital, a marketing automation software company in London as a product marketer.
Hey guys, I'm Ellie. I work at Accenture as a innovation and growth specialist, and I graduated about 5 years ago.
And hello everybody, I'm Andrew. I'm not graduated. I'm the VP of Global Revenue Operations at DoubleVerify.
Okay, so I think maybe kind of sticking in line with some of the topics that Andrew was talking about, why don't we start with maybe some of the challenges that you're facing in your roles, some of the big opportunities or challenges in the digital marketing landscape, or areas that you're focusing on that resonate with parts of what Andrew was talking about. Anyone can step in here.
I can start maybe because I'm probably the one that's the most removed from marketing nowadays. So I can give a little introduction, then you guys can delve deeper into it. So I've actually use the skills that I learned in my marketing degree to kind of bolster up other industries within my company. So what I've learned is really lacking in other groups or other parts of my company is the act of storytelling and understanding your customer. We think, especially because we're interested in people, because we study something like marketing, that it's innate, that everyone thinks it that way. But actually, a lot of people forget to put the customer at the heart of what they do. So coming back from something like marketing, where you're learning to estimate why and how and when, you actually really learn to think about the customer itself, and bringing that back, taking a step back and teaching that to other people is actually a really important part of what I do.
I'm just gonna jump on that. So DoubleVerify is a B2B company, so we sell our software to other businesses, which means that for us specifically, it's a lot about how do you make, when talking about digital marketing, how do you make digital marketing not a one-time thing, but how do you use it to build relationships, because a B2B buying life cycle takes a lot longer than if you're just buying shoes off Amazon. So how do you go past that first click? How do you then use your digital channels to create this relationship?
I guess from my perspective, what's really important and what I'm seeing kind of, digital marketing evolving into is that ROI-driven perspective. So I think it's extremely important for us nowadays to be, yes, working on innovative digital marketing campaigns, but also looking at the ROI behind that. So what's working, what's not working, why it's working, and kind of build on that. And I think secondly, what's also really important for the digital marketer nowadays is bringing in different platforms together. Whether it's, for example, Adobe Campaign or Marketo, and the automation and workflow side of stuff, bringing in, social media, targeting, and kind of having a holistic view and looking at, everything and having that joined up approach.
Yeah, I believe on this as well. There is a lot of data that require to prove ROI to advertisers, and that's something that will keep the customers going back and reinvest for the long term, rather than just taking this as a one-off. So I believe there is so much data, and then it's up to the marketers what they are able to do with that, and how they are able to communicate value of a campaign, for example. And I believe this is the most important analysis that anybody can perform to strive for long-term value with customers. And actually these insights should start at, as we said before, from the customers, and sometimes it might be more difficult to listen to them, because there might be an easier way to do things, but in the long run, the customer insights and the voice of the customers, even if it's a minority, that's where we should evaluate carefully and take this forward.
And kind of leveraging a bit about what Andrew was saying about key skills that you need to have around innovation and integrity in your roles, in your industries, and your companies. What do you believe are some of the key skills that young or new marketers need to be able to navigate the kind of current landscape that you're experiencing?
So innovation for sure, yeah, completely agree with that. And I also completely agree with challenging the status quo, because I think, there's so much noise nowadays, and I think it's really important for brands to use all of that data and differentiate themselves and create marketing that's, targeting and relevant to their clients and customers.
I'd say don't underestimate the power you have of being right out of school and being new to a company. In my company, we actually use that as a way of putting someone that is fresh-faced, that no one, the client's never seen before. We put them in front and we say whatever you think. Because ultimately, if you say something that the client doesn't agree with, we've got a senior manager or an MD that can say that, right? But what you're going to say is going to blow their mind, right? Because they're used to people going, yes, yes, and what else? They're not used to someone that's going, oh, have you thought of this? Or I learned about that. My friend is doing this, and have you thought of this? No, they're not used to that. They're just used to doing what they're doing every day and having people help them support that. So you coming in and actually proposing new ideas and doing it with, the knowledge that you're offering something different is actually really powerful.
I'd quite like to explain what product marketing is, because it's quite new to a lot of companies. So product marketers connect the product teams. You normally see this in software companies, which are the developers, the tech team, to all the commercial teams. So we have a product marketing team, and then we have a marketing team. We have a sales team, we have the account managers, we have managed services and whatnot. So for my role as a product marketer, I need to, first of all, be quite tech savvy. So I need to understand developer language, basically, and what are the developers developing, and then translate that into commercial language and a product story. So one thing here is storytelling again, and just being able to identify what are the key points of this product, or what are the key benefits, and bring that together in a story. And then also just communication. That seems like such an easy thing to say, but because you work with so many different people on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure some of my colleagues here would agree, that's such an underestimated skill that you need, yeah.
We've got clients coming in and paying us millions to teach them how to do storytelling, right? There is very much a power between being able to translate something from your day-to-day jargon into something that your clients are going to understand, your team is going to understand, and the vocabulary you're going to use is going to be different. And that's something you learn through putting the customer at the heart, but also by doing the analytics. How do they talk? How do I do it? Talking to different people, like you were saying, like always reaching out to different people. And I think you're absolutely right there. Yeah. Storytelling. If you can practice at one thing, practice storytelling.
And so, Andrew, with some of these skills that the alumni are talking about, how do you embody that with employees that you take on at DoubleVerify? How do you train those individuals? Either they already have these skills, or you get them into situations that allow them to experience them?
That is a hard question.
That's what this panel's for.
Specifically, I love, it's interesting. I loved hearing you say storytelling. Storytelling is something, and again, this is something you'll see as you go into any industry, right? Things that sound really simple to somebody outside of your company, within your company, is mind-blowing. We didn't realize that within our company, we had a storytelling problem up until about a year ago. Because we're a technology company, so the way we would train all of our salespeople, all of our account managers, is on technology. We'd go in and talk to them about JavaScript and wrapping tags and all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, when we were communicating with a brand like a CMO, all they wanted to know is, what's the value of this? Like, how can we communicate the value more succinctly? So a lot of what we do now is we invest a lot in training and development. We've opened up an entire training and development department within our organization, where they are finding modules for employees within our company to try to master that art. We also do give education credits within our business, and we incentivize people to go out and find programs that can actually teach them these skills so they can up-level themselves within the industry.
And thinking about training, and I suppose for the individuals who have come through Imperial College Business School and studied on our strategic marketing, what are some of the skills that you gained in the program that you're deploying now in your careers, or that you're leveraging on a daily basis?
Mine is quite interesting, actually. If you've ever heard of design thinking, you've heard of the fancy terms for marketing, really. Because when I came in, my entire company was going, oh, design thinking this, design thinking that. We don't have any design thinking experts. And the more I sat in those sessions, the more I realized, well, this is what I've learned. Like, this is what I do. I put the customer in the center. I understand the story. I go out and I figure out what they want. I ask the right questions. I know how to interview. I know how to set up an experiment and check on a hypothesis. And that's all they wanted. So they might put other terms and other words on it, but you've got the core skills to become an incredible design thinker if you know how to do marketing. And trust me, that's really looked at outside of in the industry, basically. Anywhere, if you can do storytelling, if you can do design thinking, if you know how to put your customer first, you're about to start a really good journey on your work.
Anyone?
Yeah, so I think from my side, it might sound simple, but I think the power of diversity and working with people from different backgrounds, leveraging different strengths. Because I think what really stood out for me when I was doing the program was how many different backgrounds, different cultures came in together into the space to kind of study strategic marketing. So I think it was really nice to be in that situation and be working on group projects with kind of really a really diverse group.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna jump in with that as well. I absolutely agree with that, and I think what's going to be very interesting with this online course as well is that a lot of what, at least for me, I'm in a global role, a lot of what I do is I wake up and I work with Australia, and then I work with the US, and I fly to Japan or I fly to Brazil, and the way I communicate what I have to do is really, really different, and the way that I work both online and offline is really different. So getting this opportunity to work with lots of different cultures and lots of different people, with people that might have a really succinct way of writing something, and someone that will write you an entire newsletter about how their day was, is really important to understand and to practice with, because once you get confronted to it, you'll be more flexible because you'll know that someone might be saying something another way, but also you'll be more ready to act upon it.
Yeah. To mirror this trend, one of our values, I don't remember if you saw it up there on the screen, is diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're actively looking to hire incredibly diverse teams. If you go into my office in London, you'll hear 10 different languages being spoken just in one office. And if you can put yourself in an environment like this program where you're speaking with people and having to work with people who have different backgrounds, who come from different cultures, is going to put you in a much more advantageous position when it comes time to get a job within this industry.
And make things more fun.
Yeah, agreed.
I think one thing would be interesting to talk about would be when you were coming into this program, your ambitions for what you wanted to go on to post the program, and how that is reflected in what you do now. Is it the same path that you imagined? Are you in a completely different place? Did you achieve your goals? And similar for you, Andrew, interested to hear how you navigated to where you are now. I don't know who wants to speak first.
I can speak on that. Because I landed exactly where I wanted to land. It was quite specific, but I just didn't really realize that this was a job at that point. I already had work experience before I came to Imperial, and did the strategic marketing course because I wanted that strategic aspect. So I wanted the management, I wanted the pricing strategies, I wanted the product management of that. And I already knew I want to go into tech. So something that's really cool at Imperial is there are a lot of clubs that you can join or also lead. So I was the vice president of the Tech, Media and Telecommunications Club, which allowed me to meet so many people in the industry and get to know people in London where I also wanted to work. And I didn't really realize that there is this job that connects marketing and tech product in one. So this is great. Yeah.
So actually mine is really similar to that. But I didn't go where I was planning to go. I saw myself as a branding, analytics, something like this, and came here and realized actually, you know what, I would much rather be an engineer and play with robots my entire day, but I did not know the difference between the ground and the positive side of a battery, so it wasn't going to happen. But what I did find out was that you need the power of marketing in every industry that you go to. And I actually joined the robotics team here, and I helped their president at the time actually totally redesign how they were doing the robotics society here. And because they were going really nerdy, techie, the way that they were bringing in only people that were doing triple E, and they were only bringing in guys that was first and second years. And by the time we left, we had 50-50 women. We had lots of different groups and lots of different classes that were coming in. And it was, for me, a realization that, you know what, I can work in something like robotics where I honestly cannot do anything and still add an incredible amount of value. And that was really fun.
Yeah, for me as well, I think the element of the strategic part of it, it helps you to think more broadly, not just into performing your role, but also think how that fits within the wider organization. And even if you don't actively play a role into a marketing role, and in my case it is more broad across different functions, but I still feel I am equipped and able to understand customers' problem and be open to listen to that, as well as influence other teams that maybe play a bigger role into the marketing space. So if you do understand how you can influence other teams, I believe the strategic piece of it will help you to cover that and focus as well your effort into making everything work together and in the same direction.
And I guess from my side, so I didn't really have any experience before doing my master's. So I had just graduated doing a business management degree. So during my business management degree, I kind of, the marketing kind of module stood out for me. So I knew from then that I wanted to kind of pursue a master's in strategic marketing. But yeah, agreeing with everyone else, I think the strategic aspect was really important. And I think that's what differentiates this master's as well versus other generic marketing masters. And I think the consulting project as well was very important for me. Coming into the master's, that was, the summer term was kind of what I was looking forward to the most, kind of putting us in front of, a client and working on a real life kind of client project was really important in our, learning experience.
That's good.
Right. And do you want to speak about your
Sure.
backstory?
I had no idea I would end up in this field at all. My undergraduate degree was in art history. And then my very first job was at a law firm where I was doing trademark filings for entertainment stars and celebrities. And I somehow managed to meander my way over to digital marketing. The one thing I will say though, right, is as a hiring manager, right, I interviewed a few different people today for a bunch of roles that we have open. One of the people that stood out to me today, she has the right background, right, because she actually, did coursework in marketing. She knows what she's doing. She's savvy, she's been in the industry, but she's also been a costume designer and she's a yoga instructor. And those are amazing qualities, right? Can you imagine what a yoga instructor gives her the ability to do, right? Is actually she has a presence in front of a bunch of people in a room to lead them all towards a similar goal of relaxation and peace, right? That's a skill set. A costume designer, right? Somebody who built a business from scratch. Somebody who found a way to make a career out of a passion project of hers, right? That to me also paints a picture of that person. So no matter what background you're coming from, broadcast everything you've done in the past, even if it's not related to what the current job you're interviewing for is, because I guarantee you'll find some hiring managers who will really latch onto that and love what some of your skills are.
For sure. And just to point that out, so I used to do hip hop dancing back home.
Amazing.
And then I also have a black belt in Taekwondo. And I have those two on my CV. And, whenever, kind of a few months ago before I joined KPMG, whenever I did interviews, hiring managers would always pick up on those and kind of...
Yeah.
Exactly.
These always start a conversation.
Yeah.
Is there any questions from the audience? Anybody have any questions for the panel? Okay, so maybe I'm going to bring this event to a close. We are going to be networking upstairs, so if you want to see Lambros do some hip-hop dancing, do come join us upstairs. But I just want to say that I want to thank the panel to start with. I want to thank Andrew. I want to say thank you for everyone who's come here today. Thank you for those online who are watching us. I look up at the projectors, but they're not there. The cameras are over there. I want to say that we are live now with our MSc Strategic Marketing online part-time. And if you did want to have your profile reviewed by a member of the recruitment team, do get in contact. There's a range of us here afterwards at the networking event, so please do come and talk to us about the event. Equally, if there's any of the other programs that we offer in our MSc space, MBA space, doctoral, summer school that you want to talk to us about, we're all open ears. But please come and join us for a drink upstairs. And thank you very much.